all, welcome back to Reddit to Wire. Well, just as we did for the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness, we're going to do our Elements of Handicapping series for the Belmont. And we begin, as we always do, with part one, which is form. And we'll be studying the how all the contenders are coming into the race and see how they stack up. So let's get started. The Elements of Handicapping the Belmont Stakes is an evaluation of the 2023 Belmont Stakes field contenders utilizing the four corners of race handicapping: form, class, speed, and pace. Part one is form, the evaluation of each contender's performance to date and how it will impact their run in the Belmont Stakes. First is Angel of Empire, had a very nice third in the Kentucky Derby, and you saw the gallop out. A mile and a half is just what this one wants. The longer the distances, the better he does. So really looking forward to seeing this one run. Hasn't done anything wrong on the Triple Crown Trail and continues to get better. I think he's a logical use, and pretty excited to see this one run in the Belmont. National Treasure just comes off a nice Preakness win, a masterful ride by Johnny V. Don't think he's going to get as easy a setup as he got for the last one. You do have some other horses who in this race who probably are going to be pressuring him a little bit. Notably, Tappet Shoes, I think, will be up near the engine trying to challenge there. So I don't think he's going to be able to walk the dog quite as easily. However, he should be on the lead and will be able to dictate. So that's a very big positive. So he gets an A- because I don't think he's going to have quite as easy a setup as he did for the Preakness. But I think he's coming to the race in good form, and I think he's dangerous. Tappet Shoes just had a really nice second in the Bathhouse Row Stakes, and boy, he just was a hair away from winning it. Red Route Wire finally got somebody at the wire. Brad Cox is really good at placing his horses, and I think this one demonstrated that he's getting it. And this is a logical next step. It is a big class test for sure, but he is by Tappet, and he's the Belmont sire. So I think mainly what I like about this one's chances is that he'll be forwardly placed. And I think that's going to be a really good thing in this race. And you also get Kent DeSormo aboard, and he is just mighty dangerous when he's under the radar. And he's been doing really well out in California. He's resurged. So I think that's a great choice, and it really enhances the chances for Tappet Shoes. Hit Show runs his race. He ran a nice fifth in the Kentucky Derby, probably a little better than we thought he would do. And that was a really nice ride. And he just wasn't good enough. And that's the knock on this one more than anything else. He runs his race every single time. He's an honest horse. I just think he's a cut below the best. That's really what it comes down to. But form-wise, could be coming into the race in better form. And I think he'll run his usual race. Whether it's good enough, that's the question. Archangelo's another one taking a big step up from the Peter Pan to the Belmont. That was a one-turn race. We cannot lose sight of that. And this is a big, big difference. A whole new ball game in a mile and a half around two turns. I do have concerns that a big duel with Bishop's Bay in that race might take a little bit out of this one. And he's going to need everything he can get to take this race down. This is a big challenge. I think he's coming into it. He's certainly moving forward. He did in the Peter Pan, and he's in good form right now. Whether or not it's good enough to win this, I'm not so sure. Forte gets a B, and here's why. He hasn't run in 10 weeks. He's in exactly the same position he was after the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And, long layoff and waiting to see him run. So he obviously was primed and ready to run in the Derby, and I'm sure he would have given a peak effort, but now it's plus 10 weeks. And so, since the Florida Derby. So you do have to wonder if he's going to be able to fire a peak effort, which is what he's going to need to win this. And that's really the only question mark I have. So we have to downgrade his form to a B. I mean, prior to the Derby, he was an A, but it's been a while. So he has the class to factor in this race, and but that's the only thing I worry about is what kind of if he can produce an A effort. Tapit Trace, we thought we had all the questions answered, and now we've got more. That Bluegrass Stakes was a thing of beauty, and moving on from that race, you had to believe he was going to run a big Derby, and he really just didn't fire. I mean, he just ran a dull seventh, wasn't in the race at all. really never factored in it whatsoever. And really what bothers me, as it always does with Tapit Trace, is that he was distracted in the stretch. He's looking in the stands when he ought to be focusing on the race. So there's still some maturity issues with this one. But there is a little something that I've been wondering about, and it's just kind of a theory I have, and I can't really base it on anything, but I don't think Tappet's like Churchill Downs. Tappet himself ran a poor Kentucky Derby. Every account was that he was going to be a major factor in that race, and he really didn't fire terribly well. A lot of Tacitus. There have been a few over the years that you thought were going to come into the Derby. They were in prime form, going to run a big race, and then they really just didn't fire. So I wonder about maybe it's just a thing about Tappets don't like Churchill Downs. I don't know. It's hard to find an explanation for that Kentucky Derby. It opens up a whole new range of questions about this horse. The Belmont is tailor-made for this horse. The Tappet is the Belmont sire. We know this. And is it possible that he can come back and run a big race with the added ground? Of course. And if anybody's going to get him into that kind of shape, it's Todd Pletcher. He is the Belmont trainer. So he's got a lot of good things, but that last race, boy, it really hard to explain. And so, but I think he's likely going to be a contender, but it's awful tough to trust him after that Derby. Red Row 1, well, we know what he's going to do. The rating experiment is over. The Preakness, it just didn't work, having him closer to the pace. He ran an okay fourth, but he flattened out, really wasn't much of a factor. There looked like a place in the race where he actually was going to try to take control, and then he just didn't have it. So obviously this one is a one-run closer. That's what he is, and that's what they're going to do in the Belmont. He'll take him back and hope for the best. Will he have pace to run to? Probably not. At 1.5 miles, maybe it's not quite such a big deal. But horses running from the far behind in the Belmont are very much up against it. So he comes into the race. I think he'll run his race. I don't have any doubt about that. Steve Asmussen's really good at keeping horses in good form for long periods of time. So I think this one will be okay for the Belmont, but likely under is the ceiling. Miller Colo, I have many times said, and I'm going to say it again, is that I do not understand why this horse is running in graded stakes races. He simply isn't good enough. Antonio Sano, he did a lot of good things with simplification last year, but he also has been running simplification. It ran him to death. And when everybody knew he needed a break, and it just seemed to be a really stubborn attitude towards a horse, is just to keep running him. Well, I don't know if this is the owners or the trainer or what it is, but this horse isn't good enough. That's the bottom line. Now, he just got a win in an optional claimer for $100,000 at Gulfstream, but it was a 1-turn mile and it was a 5-horse field. We didn't learn anything about this horse. I think he got the same speed figure that he got in the Florida Derby, which wasn't near good enough. You see, he was 6th in the Florida Derby, he was 6th in the Fountain of Youth, he was 5th in the Holy Bull, and he's not progressing, and I don't think he's getting any better. The only thing you can say that I can understand why they might want to take a shot here is that perhaps he'll be up near the pace, and he's by Gun Runner, and he's got Tappet underneath. That's 2-turn Belmont pedigree all day long. But the bottom line is this horse just hasn't proven to be good enough. And I will be absolutely shocked if he factors in the Belmont. But he gets a C- because we know what he is at this point, and it's just not good enough. So just to recap what we learned from the race replays, we summarized this in a posting earlier, but I'll just repeat it. You see, this is basically how I see the horse's rate. You can throw Ray's Cane out, of course, because he is now going to run in the Matt Win. And it's too bad, too, because I think Ray's Cane had a pretty good shot to be in the money in this race, not necessarily win it. So I think of the form-wise, Angel of Empire, National Treasure, Tappet Shoes, they're your big three. I think they're all in the best form coming into this race. I think Hit Show will run his race. I'm not sure it's going to be he's going to move forward to be a win candidate. And Archangelo, I have some concerns about that that Peter Pan taking a little bit out of him, but he's coming into the race in pretty good form. And then Forte, Tappet Trace, Red Route 1, and Miller Colo. There's some question marks, and they're well noted. Of all of the four, I think Tapit Trace probably can rebound the best, but I think Forte will probably run a good race as well. Just not sure he's going to be able to put in a peak effort. So that's form, and I think based upon the what we've seen from the horses, I think Angel of Empire is the horse to beat, in my opinion. But there's certainly some worthy contenders, and Tapit Trace and Forte, namely, as well as National Treasure. We'll just have to see how the post positions are drawn and what the race is going to look like from that standpoint. As of recording this Tuesday morning, they haven't been drawn yet, but they'll be coming out later today. And that'll give us, obviously, a better idea of what to look at. We're going to follow up with, as we always do, part 2, which is class. We'll be looking a little more into the pedigrees and the capabilities of the horses and whether or not they belong from a class standpoint in the Belmont Stakes. Of course, if you do like what you see here, please like and subscribe, and we do thank you for coming by. And thanks so much for the comments. I really appreciate the feedback I've heard from you guys, and some really good input, some really interesting opinions. And I think it's all good stuff, so it's going to help us all have a really vivid picture of what this Belmont is going to look like. So keep them coming. I'll be talking to you in the very near future, and until then, be well.